it's cash, right? So the Romanovs, they bungled their finances. They didn't have the cash to keep paying the military and the generals.
Yeah.
First thing Caesar did, kick open the door to the treasury.
Yeah.
Andrew Jackson, the same thing. This is Davy Crockett basically just left D.C. and was like, the United States is done once Andrew Jackson got his hands on the treasury. Yeah. This is a guy who used to run Zaire. He says, what is important is the cash. A leader needs money, gold, and diamonds to buy his cars and pay his loyal military forces and still have enough left over for him. There's a transition from like, we'll change the narrative in the school textbooks to, can we pay people to keep us safe?
Yeah. The thing is, this is why you start with the Romans, people. Start with the Romans if you ever want to go into politics, because the sort of Cliff's Notes version of the Roman view of how to do politics is like, it's just a couple of steps. Step 1, identify your enemies. Step 2, take money from your enemies. Step 3, give that money to your friends. Congratulations.
Boom.
You now know the basic sort of like the gameplay loop, as it's called, of politics. Like, once you've done with step 3, you can go back to step 1 and repeat the process, essentially. And again, if you talk to like leftists, they say, "Oh well, this is just primitive. Like in the age of Marx, we have like this sort of secular, like the falling rate of profit, blah 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 blah. Like this is like." Read my 1,000-page dissertation debating whether the Soviet Union was a degenerated worker state or state capitalism. Like, that fucking matters. But the thing is, what leftists will never ever do, and this is why I started with, like, the way you become a leftist is you go to law school. And if you fail law school, if you fail to get a good job, you become a revolutionary Bolshevik. Like, this is the reason. Because what leftists never will do, and this is extremely obvious today, is that they will never actually use this very basic sort of Romance three-step process. Identify your friends, identify your enemies, transfer money from group 1 to group 2 on themselves. So people like go, oh man, this PMC question, it's so hard, it's so complicated, guys. Like PMCs, are they our friends? Are they our enemies? Like, oh gosh, I don't know. And everyone sort of like pretends to not notice the obvious, which is that every leftist has gone to law school or the equivalent. Every leftist belongs to the PMC. And so when they say, this is so fucking complicated, guys, like their status and what we should do about it, no, it's not complicated at all. Like the reason the left can't talk about these people is because for the left, what you cannot tolerate is taking money from this group and giving it to workers. Like, that's a red line. That's never going to happen.
Yup. This quick story. Okay, we're back going. Okay, so quick story. So this came up with CRT, the critical race theory. There was a ton of discussion. People were like, well, you know, the Frankfurt School and all this shit. And I was like, these are jobs to their friends.
Yeah.
That's it. That's all that matters. And they're like, well, why doesn't Trump believe in this? And why does, Biden? It's like they want to take jobs from those guys and take jobs from others. And the beauty of the Roman thing is people haven't figured out how to obfuscate all these relationships yet.
Patron and client in Roman society were like, not only did not obfuscate him, like that was literally what you were called. You were a patron or a client. It was the most basic form of it that we know of. Like everybody, like it's like a universally understood thing. And we kind of get shit, or used to get shit for talking about patrons because
we still do. I got some the other day. You guys,
this is such
yeah.
It's a primitive. You're oversimplifying things. It's primitive. Everybody knows this stuff. Well, people don't act like they know it. They don't act like they really believe it because if once you take the patronage pill. If you're really into the weeds and like the inside baseball thing of politics, it's gonna ruin your fun.
Yeah.
Because everything it's not as complicated as you think. It's actually much more boring, obvious, and
Here, I remember the quote. Okay, so here's what you need to do if you're wondering if people are confused about the patronage question. Just go into Twitter and Google the very last time. It's whatever time you do this, 3 in the morning, 12 at noon. Just Google. I am tired of subsidizing, and leave the rest blank. You're gonna get some you're gonna get like someone who's not like super PMC, but they're just like an ordinary liberal, and they're like, and they'll just a thought will strike to them. They're like, why do we send money to Kentucky if Kentucky is not our friends?
Yeah.
And they'll just say this out loud, and then this happens like every 10 minutes. And read the comments below, and you're gonna see that there's a lot of people that really don't like this relationship being discussed openly.
Yeah, and again, like, it's my experience as someone who's like sort of somewhat involved in, let's say, a sort of populist project and who comes from the left, is that every old comrade, every loyalist maggot, like in servant of the false gods, all of them think that, like, how can we get the working class to support us? It's so complicated, blah, blah, blah. It's not complicated at all. This is, again, like, if you start with the Romans, you realize that, like, one of the basic sort of forms of politics is essentially to take money from one group and say to another group, we're going to give this money to you in exchange for loyalty and support. And so, again, the secret sauce, I'm not afraid to admit this, because, like, this is a weapon that the left will never be able to use in order to sort of make the working class loyal. But, like, our recipe for this is essentially to be very honest and open about the fact that we are Viking raiders on the outskirts of Lindisfarne, living the moment, taking the long axe and sort of, chopping down the monastery doors and distributing all of the silver inside. We say quite explicitly, we will take money from these professionals. We will make you stop subsidizing them. All of these sort of sinecures, all of these social and economic privileges that people with a college education enjoy, like, join our war band, raiding party, whatever, and let us loot these people together, and we will distribute the spoils equally and fairly among all of the looters. And obviously you can get the response like, this is fascism, or this is so evil, blah, 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 blah. No, you see, we really need the workers and the PMCs to sort of reach the final stage where everyone gets along in perfect communism. And to that I just answer, if you kill Lord Vivek in Morrowind, you get this message saying, like, with this character's death, the thread of fate is severed. So reload a saved game or persist in the doomed world you have created. And what all of these leftists say is essentially, without them, you're going to get the same sort of message from history, where, we can't have communism anymore because all of these sort of law students, like, now they have to work at Starbucks or whatever. Okay, well, bring it on, I say. Let's see how well you handle the fucking quick save button in real life.
He's hitting the nail on the head, isn't
he?
Yeah,
you showed your hand because this is what the billionaires really want, and they're your only enemy. We're not working around the clock to straight.
Yeah, and again, I think that.
Okay, sorry. Let me say. So this, like, the worst, the thing that makes the worst left lie is the most hollow thing ever. And this is what they promise to people who aren't going to get anything. They'll say, "Oh, what you get, we'll just take that from the billionaires."
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, no, you fucking aren't. Sorry.
Yeah. First of all, you're not going to win against the billionaires, and second of all, we have no reason to trust that you will actually, like, give these people to or give the spoils to anyone. Yeah, like, with
I think you're the Tinkzorg. You're there. we saw a lot of this too recently, very, very, very recently. There is a brand of this politics that kind of does see the reality, and you can always tell them because they're the ones who try to convince you that, well, we're not the actual like owners, the actual bourgeoisie, the literal capitalists who run everything. We're not going after them. We're going to go after like the petite bourgeois, and we're going to go after like you see it the most in these arguments about big business versus small business, right? And people are like, hey, we can make a dent in the problem of capital if we start attacking like the local mom and pop, because we actually have the power to do something to them. And that's like that's just kind of the lame ass excuse that you use when you're practicing the model that you're talking about.
Yeah.
We're gonna loot Martha's barnyard, and we're gonna give that money to somebody in the MFA program, and we're gonna pretend like that's revolutionary.
You're just the Cossacks for Bezos, but you really believe that Bezos is Lenin.
Yeah, I've seen people say, and I know they include me in that, even though like I keep saying that the post left does not exist, but I see people saying stuff like, it's really clear at this point that the post-left, they don't have any sort of actual plan for transcending capitalism. They talk about like small business owners, blah, 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 but like small business owners will never help us transcend capitalism. While, the PMCs, the knowledge workers, they are part of this coalition that will bring about communism. And you say we should, save mom and pops. This is not going to bring about the plan, bro. To that, I want to scream like some sort of Chaos Space Marine or whatever that, like, let's see how your insides look fucking splayed across my power armor. Because, again, like, even if that is true, find God's fucking keyboard and hit, like, the quick load button. That's your remedy to all of this. Because here's the thing. In the words of Mao Zedong, may he rest or live for 1,000 years or whatever, let 1,000 flowers bloom. So if your idea of sort of getting a political war band or party involves
that's brilliant.
Saying to people that, first of all, we have to do something about student debt. But once we have perfect communism, you will have, a pot to piss in. Like, I would never, ever dream of forbidding any fucking leftist from sort of selling their trot newspapers or, having their live streams or podcasts or whatever, with this message. Like, be my fucking guest. What I will say to these people, the international proletariat, or even the national proletariat, because I'm a scary fascist, is I offer an alternative product, which is, instead of you getting something once we have like luxury space communism, but until then fighting as a fucking miserable like levied peasant for a bunch of like wannabe princess. How about we rob the wannabe princess and burn all their monasteries down, and you can have the loot. And if people prefer that, well, again, find the quick load button or whatever. Or, like in Red Alert, you can just use the chronosphere like Albert Einstein sort of erasing Hitler from history. Do that to all the populists. Because, again, everyone knows that my offer, our offer, like the populist offer, like you will be part of the Mongol horde. You will see your enemies driven before you and hear the lamentations of their fucking soy boys. That is far, far preferable to being like the mooks, the cannon fodder of a bunch of worthless sort of petty nobility that are really pissed off because they have to stack shelves on at Walmart or whatever.